Hello and welcome to the Sephirah Center of Shamanism. My name is Luke, experienced practitioner and mentor of the shamanic and occult sciences. On this channel, we break down all things relating to the ancient shamanic and occult technologies, bringing them into balance with the modern psychology and deep psyche. Today, we're going to be looking at the Tree of Life and the Sephiroth. We're going to be breaking down the 10 divine emanations that make up the Sephiroth. We're going to be looking at them from an initiatory standpoint and how we can integrate these divine principles into our day-to-day lives and get real tangible results with them. So if this is something that interests you, particularly for those who are interested in occult initiation via the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, then I would definitely recommend staying tuned. So, the Tree of Life, which I will show here, is an ancient map of consciousness that shows the divine emanations that the creator consciousness needs to go through in order to separate itself into a physical, tangible experience to carry out the divine plan. The divine plan simply refers to the process of the creator consciousness, also known as the oneness, separating itself in order to define a meaning for itself. Okay, we are the products of that separation. We have been born into a physical multiverse with free will to get to know ourselves, forge our own path, and define a meaning. So we are literally carrying out that divine plan. So the Tree of Life itself is a map of the divine plan. You could say a map of our multiverse showing the unique organizing principles that make our multiverse. Okay, the Tree of Life itself has its roots in Jewish mysticism, but I feel it goes back much further. I feel it goes way back to the ancient civilizations, way back to Lemuria, Atlantis. That's my personal viewpoint, purely because this process of the divine plan is so highly complex that you can't really fully define or comprehend it from within a physical body, let alone from within a single diagram. But the Tree of Life is but one way of observing this process of the divine plan, of observing the process of separation in order for the soul and the creator consciousness or the oneness to really get to know itself and define a meaning for itself. So the Sephiroth refers specifically to the 10 spheres that you see in this diagram. These 10 spheres are interconnected by 22 pathways. The spheres themselves hold unique organizing principles that are highly individual to that given sphere. These organizing principles play unique and individual roles in carrying out the divine plan. The pathways that connect the spheres simply represent the specific energetic processes that the creator consciousness or the divine essence needs to go through in order to transition into the next emanation. So the light is birthed from the depths of the abyss, cultivating oneness. That oneness has to define itself, has to get to know itself, so it separates. That oneness begins to gather and creates the first sphere, which is Kether. Kether is the top sphere, representing crown, representing the divine influx. Kether is the divine influx that then expresses itself in the different emanations, in the other Sephiroth. So Kether itself is such a high energy that cannot be comprehended at all from within a physical body. It really represents that mystery of the divine influx, the mystery of the oneness, the mystery of the pure awareness. So in order for the creator consciousness to get to know itself, the creator consciousness being Kether, it has to separate itself. So it moves down in like a lightning bolt fashion. So it moves down to Chokmah to develop wisdom. Then it moves across to Binah. That wisdom is then understood and conceived to produce the rest of the tree. The creator consciousness goes down diagonally across the abyss, down to cultivate the lower Sephirah. It moves into Chesed to generate mercy. That mercy is brought into balance by Geburah to generate judgment. That cultivates beauty that sits at the center of creation with Tiphareth. The consciousness then descends into what we call the astral triad to bring feeling and emotion into balance with logic and reason before it shapes the foundation for our physical experience, being the astral plane, down to Malkuth that sits at the bottom of the tree. So it moves in a sort of lightning bolt diagonal way. Okay, so the creator consciousness needs to get to know itself, generates wisdom, understanding, mercy, judgment, beauty, victory, splendor, foundation, and then kingdom. The kingdom being our physical plane of existence. Okay, so the process of initiating the Tree of Life depends which way you want to do it. There are many different ways that you can study the tree. Yeah, you can take yourself through the energetic processes just by studying the tree. Even just studying or reading about it does expose you to its energies. The occult method I have found to be the most powerful. And again, there isn't just one occult method. The process of initiating through the tree through occult practices and rituals was very much brought in and popularized by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, developed by Aleister Crowley. But there are many different ways that you can work with the spheres, many different ways that you can work with the pathways. Some methods separate them into 4 levels. So studying the 4 levels of Kabbalah, each is resonant with a given suit of the tarot. So it really depends which way you want to do it. The occult method normally represents the process of absorbing the energies of all of the spheres and connecting pathways, letting yourself be carried through them energetically. And as you go through the given sphere, you are learning how to emanate that given quality. So the process of initiation goes in the opposite direction to the divine emanation because we are existing within our physical, tangible experience. The divine emanation comes down from the creator consciousness through the different organizing principles to reach the physical, tangible reality. But obviously, to get to know and absorb these different organizing principles, we have to move in the opposite direction. So we actually move from the physical, tangible experience from the bottom sphere, Malkuth, which is Earth, up through the different emanations in reverse order. So we initiate from the sphere of Earth to the sphere of the Moon, Yesod, to the sphere of Mercury with Hod, to the sphere of Netzach with Venus, to the sphere of the Sun with Tiphareth, to the sphere of Mars with Geburah, to the sphere of Jupiter with Chesed, crossing the abyss, reaching the sphere of Saturn with Binah, across to Chokmah, the sphere of Uranus, or some refer to the sphere of Chokmah as Neptune. I see Kether as Neptune personally, but again, it depends from what viewpoint you're looking at it from. And then into Kether, the creator consciousness. And then you shoot back down the tree at the end of the initiation, grounding all of the initiations that you received, coming back to the physical, tangible experience to go through it again. Some describe getting to Kether and then realizing, oh, I'm actually at the bottom of a much bigger tree. And then it kind of works like that. The initiation is always going to be somewhat ongoing. Yeah. The idea is that as you're going through these emanations, regardless of what method you use, you are essentially absorbing and learning to integrate these divine principles into your day-to-day lives. It can be a challenging process. It depends. Yeah. The Sephiroth is a much smoother process than its darker counterpart, which is the Qliphoth. The Qliphoth represents the realms of dark matter energy in the deep unconscious, basically representing the womb of creation, the formlessness, whereas the Sephiroth is the much more masculine, much more definable path. Yeah, so the process of initiating the Sephiroth is much more comprehensible to the conscious mind, whereas initiating through the Qliphoth is a completely different story. The Qliphoth is the dark counterpart, which I will talk about when the time is right, when I'm at the right point in my journey with the Qliphoth. I will talk about the Qliphoth in depth. But the Sephiroth itself, you may find that certain spheres, certain emanations may be harder to integrate than others. For example, you've got Hod, which is all about practicality, applying balanced analysis and logic and reason to one's healing and evolutionary path. If somebody is already quite analytical as a person, then they will find Hod quite easy. Yeah. And they may find its opposite, its balancing principle, which is Netzach, Venus, the artist's path, they may find that more challenging. Somebody who struggles to use their logical mind and connect to their more right brain analysis aspect of themselves, they may find Netzach easier and Hod much more difficult. So it really depends on the individual and your unique qualities. As I mentioned, each sphere is also associated with a planetary energy. So when you're initiating through each sphere, you are also absorbing the qualities of that given planetary energy and learning how to emanate that as well. Okay, the tree is also separated into three different pillars. So at the top of this diagram, you'll see that on the left side of the tree, which is made up of Binah, Geburah, and Hod, that represents the dark pillar of severity. All of those are very, what you could call quite feminine forces that require one to go inwards. Whereas the opposite, which is the light pillar of mercy, they're much more masculine, more emanating qualities. Whereas the spheres that are in the middle are, which namely are Malkuth, Yesod, Tiphareth, the Abyss, which is Da'at, which I'll talk about later, and Kether, they represent that sort of balance, that equilibrium, the balance of both of those energies. Yeah, so we've got, the tree itself is split into those different aspects. So as you go through it, you're learning how to emanate the qualities of the masculine and feminine in a highly individual way and in a way that is balanced and sustainable. For example, if we initiated through the sphere of Mercury, Hod, and we only integrated Hod, yeah, then we wouldn't be able to maintain a necessary state of equilibrium or balance without then initiating through its opposing force, being Netzach, because they bring each other into balance. The same with Geburah. Yeah, so these are the two spheres that are just above the middle sphere, Tiphareth. Geburah is the sphere of Mars, representing that sort of more fierce judgment energy, whereas its opposing force, its balancing Sephirah, is Chesed, and Chesed represents Jupiter, and Jupiter represents mercy. So they bring each other into balance, much like Binah. So the top spheres that are just below Kether in the supernal triad, the top triangle, Binah represents understanding, and its opposing force, its balancing Sephirah, represents wisdom. So the idea is that when the divine essence flowed from Kether, the oneness, into Chokmah, it thrusted wisdom into the cosmos, but then Binah comprehended that wisdom, conceived it, made it comprehensible in order to then give birth to the other Sephirah, the other organizing principles. Okay. So it's a very powerful initiatory process that will change you significantly as you go through it. But the Sephiroth in itself, unlike the Qliphoth, the Sephiroth is the tree of life, and it's about shaping your multiverse. Yeah. The Qliphoth, its opposing force, is about deconstructing your multiverse. Okay. Which we will talk about in later videos. But the tree of life itself is about bringing order to your physical experience, ordering your reality in a way that is conducive to your soul's evolutionary path. So we are going to discuss the spheres in depth. We're going to look at each organizing principle, each Sephirah in depth. We're also going to look at the angelic entity that rules over it. And we're really going to look at how we can integrate these principles through the initiatory process into our day-to-day lives. So here goes. So this is just a bit of clarity on the separation process from the creator consciousness, from Kether down to the bottom sphere of Malkuth. So you've got Kether that represents the divine primal influx. The consciousness then goes down to Chokmah to generate wisdom, and then goes across to Binah to understand and conceive that wisdom, then goes across from Binah down through the abyss to Chesed to generate mercy. From Chesed, it moves across to Geburah to balance that mercy with judgment, and that is where the laws of creation are defined. It then goes down from Geburah down to Tiphareth, the sphere of beauty. Tiphareth then moves into what we call the astral triad, which is Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Netzach represents the path of the artist, the generation of feeling and emotion. From Netzach across to Hod to develop logic and reason. From Hod down to Yesod, which represents the foundation, the astral plane, the foundation of the physical experience, before it then goes down to Malkuth to develop physical, tangible experience. So it moves down like a lightning bolt from Kether to Chokmah, Binah, Chesed, Geburah, Tiphareth, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malkuth. So the process of initiation is to reverse that, to go from Malkuth up to Yesod, Hod, Netzach, Tiphareth, Geburah, Chesed, across the abyss to Binah, to Chokmah, and to Kether. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that, and we're now going to go into the spheres, starting with the Earth sphere of Malkuth. So Malkuth represents the Earth sphere, represents the physical, tangible experience. This is an extremely important stage of the initiatory process, as this begins the alchemy of the Sephiroth. Within this sphere, you have experiences that are going to bring you back to your physical body, back to your physical tangible experience, and just push you into a place where you have to be more present. Because the physical tangible experience is the vehicle for our soul's evolution, this stage of initiation is extremely important, because a lot of the New Age has programmed us with the belief that we need to escape Malkuth, that we need to escape the physical experience, that we need to escape reality. Yeah, but that's counterproductive, because we have separated ourselves into a physical body, into Malkuth, into this avatar, to define meaning for ourselves from within the physical body, using our free will. So initiating through Malkuth will bring you back down to earth. Yeah, it may even get to the point where it's like, I'm going to try and meditate within the sphere of Malkuth, but then something in your physical reality may stop you from being able to meditate. I've certainly experienced that myself, trying to meditate in the sphere of Malkuth. All of a sudden something happens outside. All of a sudden a bee flies in through the window, starts making loads of noise. Yeah, so it's like you're going to have experiences in Malkuth that are really going to encourage you to extract wisdom and evolution from your day-to-day experiences, as that is where the real initiations are. They happen in your day-to-day lives. Yeah, with the people that you meet. Yeah, the dynamics that you move into. Yeah, the initiations have to take place from within the physical experience. So it's here where you learn to emanate the necessary qualities to really utilize the physical experience as a mirror for your self-evolution, which is extremely important for being able to really integrate the rest of the tree into your day-to-day life. Yeah, just because you're moving up through the different planetary energies, moving beyond the physical experience, you're still going to be within a physical body when you're doing that. So it's important to understand that when you integrate, regardless of what sphere you're working with, whatever Sephirah you integrate, even if it's the top sphere, Kether, yeah, that is the divine influx, the highest level of consciousness from within the tree, we need to understand that we need to integrate that energy, and that only happens through the physical, tangible experience. So initiating just through the first sphere will teach you how to come back to your physical body, come back to your physical experience, and how to effectively ground the energies into your physical reality, and will really push you into a place where you have to ditch any fantasies and ideas of escaping the physical plane and rising up to 5D and being a light being from within the physical body. Yeah, you are not going to be able to leave your physical experience until you die. Okay, so we have to learn how to utilize the world around us as the vehicle for growth and evolution. And Malkuth is an extremely important initiation to really learn how to find spirituality within mundane day-to-day activities. The angelic entity that rules over Malkuth is Archangel Sandalphon. Archangel Sandalphon is responsible for ensuring the divine energy is able to flow effectively into the physical, tangible experience. Working with him and any of the angels from any of the spheres will ultimately assist you in being able to integrate and absorb the lessons that that sphere is trying to teach you. But Sandalphon specifically will teach you specifically how to embody the qualities of really utilizing the mundane world as the real initiator of learning, growth, and expansion. Yesod is the second sphere that is pursued within the Sephirothic initiation. Yesod means foundation and holds the foundation for the physical experience. It essentially holds the plans that are in action before they manifest into physical experience. It's the first sphere within the astral triad and is referred to by many as the formative plane. It's called the formative plane because it's the place where possibility descends into to take form before it manifests into the physical, tangible experience. So the role of Yesod is to take the divine essence from the higher Sephiroth, the higher emanations, and essentially order it before it moves into the physical, tangible experience to manifest. So if we were to translate that to the human psyche, Yesod would be the subconscious mind going on to the unconscious. Yeah. So Yesod requires one to look deep into their shadow. Yeah. To look deep into their unconscious mind, their subconscious, and understand what has been influencing their reality to manifest in the way that it has. Yesod is about understanding the mechanics of your physical experience, understanding that the astral plane is very much the architectural drawing for the house being the physical experience. So Yesod is the astral plane, the beginning of the astral plane, and holds the plans, the architectural drawing for the physical experience. So initiating through Hod requires one to look within themselves, look at their shadow, and delve into the different aspects of their reality that may have been influencing certain things to manifest that may not be desired. So this is where the real restructuring of your reality starts to happen, as you start to look at your deeper rooted beliefs, deeper rooted patterns and behaviors that have been influencing the creation of your reality in a certain way. Archangel Gabriel rules over the sphere of Yesod, and Gabriel is known as the divine messenger, known as the angelic entity that carries energy from the creator consciousness to the physical experience and vice versa. Yeah, whilst Sandalphon is responsible for ensuring that the divine essence is able to effectively stream into the physical experience and shape it, Gabriel is responsible for carrying that divine energy down. Okay, so when you work with Archangel Gabriel in your Yesod initiation, you will download the necessary qualities that will enable you to process emotions in a calm and measured way, process your emotions in a way that is actually helpful without suppressing them, but also in a way that is balanced so that you feel held enough to be able to delve into the belief systems and patterns that exist within your subconscious mind. Okay, so embodying Gabriel, you will learn to embody the qualities of the divine messenger so that you can start to choose what comes through to your physical experience and ultimately respond to the lessons within the physical experience in a way that is more sustainable for your soul's evolutionary path. So Yesod is all about learning about the mechanics of your reality so that you can begin to shift and change it to make it more conducive for your healing and evolutionary path. So Hod is the next sphere, the third sphere that is pursued within the Sephirothic initiation, and this is the sphere of Mercury. This sphere of Mercury symbolizes Splendor and is the first sphere of initiation on the dark pillar of severity. So we're talking about the left pillar here. The initiation into Hod pushes one into a place where they have to utilize logic, reason, and analysis within their healing and evolutionary path. They may be pulled into more practical levels of consciousness where they have to think practically and utilize what you could refer to as some of the more right brain aspects of themselves. In spirituality in general, there is a lot of work that is geared towards actually distancing one from logic and reason, but initiating through Hod will teach you how to apply these qualities in a way that is balanced and not to run away from the idea of analyzing. Analysis is important for being able to understand things in a deeper and more constructive way, particularly in regards to one's healing and evolutionary path. So this analysis could very easily come through in a way of understanding where a particular pattern comes from, understanding a trauma from your past that may have influenced an unhealthy coping mechanism or behavior. It can also come through in a way of diet. So that was definitely a thing for me in Hod, understanding a lot more about diet, understanding a lot more about how to sort of consume the right foods in a healthy and balanced way that support my healing and evolutionary path. But what it looks like for each individual is ultimately going to vary. So the lessons of Hod are all about utilizing clear thinking, logic, and reason and intellect to fuel your healing and evolutionary path. It's easy to fall out of balance with that, however, when we're only working with this energy. And that's why logic and reason is brought into balance with the corresponding Sephirah on the right pillar of mercy, which is just directly across from Hod, and that's Netzach. And Netzach is all things relating to feeling, emotion, and the path of the artist. So these two spheres together really bring each other into balance. But when you initiate through Hod, you will learn how to utilize these very important qualities in regards to logic, reason, and intellect in a way that is balanced and healthy for your healing and evolutionary path. Archangel Michael rules over the sphere of Hod and will teach you how to apply these qualities in a way that is actually sustainable for you energetically. Archangel Michael is seen as being very protective, but has a lot more to him than that. He is a mercurial deity, so is very much connected to the planet Mercury, so can help you to navigate the challenges of the planet Mercury, help you to navigate the more practical level of consciousness, help you to navigate logic and reason without falling into a place that is overly utilizing it. So Archangel Michael will help you to utilize the intellectual aspect of Hod in a way that ensures that you don't fall too far into over-analyzing, and will help you to effectively integrate these teachings in a way that is sustainable for your healing and evolutionary path. So once we've embodied and integrated the intellectual pursuits of Hod, we have to move across to Netzach to effectively learn how to balance that. Netzach is the sphere of Venus and has that very strong, arty Venusian energy that is attached to it. Netzach symbolizes victory and teaches you how to apply effective emotional intelligence in your day-to-day life, utilize your intuition, utilize your creative flow, and learn how to emanate and action that within your day-to-day life. This is the first initiation on the right-hand side pillar of mercy, the white pillar that represents the divine masculine. These are very emanating qualities that causes us to move outwards with these energies and effectively integrate in regards to Netzach, the path of the artist. Okay, so Netzach is quite an emotional sphere. Yeah, you can have a lot of stuff come up in Netzach. It's quite watery, I would say. You know, like you can have a lot of emotions, lots of things coming to the surface in Netzach. And, you know, you have to effectively learn how to approach them with optimal emotional intelligence. Initiations in Netzach are also accompanied by learning how to utilize those aspects within your day-to-day life. So you may be put in a situation where you have to really engage your emotional intelligence, or if you're in healing work, maybe you'll attract clients that will require more emotional intelligence than you would have before. This initiation can be challenging for those who are too much in their head. So it really depends on what qualities you naturally emanate as a person. Some may find Hod more challenging than Netzach. Typically, those who are more arty, more Venusian in nature will find Hod much more challenging because they have to then learn to apply the opposing force. Whereas those who are very in their head, very logical, very analytical, and, you know, may overthink a lot, they will go through a very important initiation in Netzach that will really bring that into balance and teach them how to be more present with their feelings and emotions. The archangel that rules over the sphere of Netzach is none other than Haniel. Haniel has a beautiful energy and brings a very masculine, very space holder energy to it, and will teach you how to emanate the energy of the space holder to be able to both hold space for others with emotional intelligence and hold space for yourself and give yourself the permission to feel and process the emotions that may well come up within the sphere of Venus. Tiphareth is the next sphere that is pursued within the Sephirothic initiation and sits in the center of the tree. It represents the entrance into what we call the ethical triad, which is Tiphareth, Geburah, and Chesed. Tiphareth represents the sphere that sits in the middle of the tree as the beauty that sits in the center of creation. This is the sphere of the sun, the solar sphere, and is a sphere that will move you into a place of self-realization, self-reflection, and how to shift your reality into a space that is more balanced between the higher planes of existence and the lower planes of existence. So because Tiphareth sits at the center of creation, it represents equilibrium. Yeah, so it's kind of that it's on the cusp between the higher planes of existence that are past the ethical triad and the lower planes of existence leading back down to the physical, tangible experience. So initiations in Tiphareth will encourage one to bring more balance and harmony and realistically equilibrium into their day-to-day life and learn how to emanate the necessary qualities that can ultimately gain gnosis and guidance from their higher self and learn how to effectively shift their reality into a conducive structure to be able to effectively integrate and receive the guidance from their higher self. So this is where a lot of people get gnosis and connect to their holy guardian angel, as what it's called amongst Abrahamic spiritualists, or what the Clifothic tradition would call the personal daemon, or just the higher self, however you want to refer to it. So Tiphareth is very much that sphere which is about learning how to emanate the beauty of your higher self within your physical experience. Yeah, within that sphere of equilibrium, learning how to bring those spiritual energies into balance with the more mundane level of consciousness, understanding that it's not one or the other, they exist in harmony. Yeah. The archangel that rules over the sphere of Tiphareth is none other than Raphael. Raphael has a beautiful energy, extremely healing, the go-to angel for healing. So Raphael can hold you through the process of gaining gnosis from your higher self and can guide you in integrating its guidance and desires into one's healing and evolutionary path. He can guide you in undergoing the necessary healing and can help you reflect on what needs to change within your reality to bring more of that equilibrium, more of that Christ consciousness, and more of the energy of the higher self into your physical body. Tiphareth helps us realize that the purpose of healing and evolution is not to get rid of the physical experience, is not to get rid of the ego, but is to mature it. Yeah, so it is the process where you start to feel that sort of ego maturation process of really shifting and molding the ego into closer harmony with the higher self. Geburah is the next sphere that is undertaken within the Sephirothic initiation. This is the second initiation on the left pillar of severity, so it's directly above Hod, this sphere. This is the sphere of strength and judgment. This is one of the more feared of the Sephiroth, purely because it pushes one into a place where they have to evaluate, they have to assess, they have to judge, they have to embody the harsh and often aggressive energies of Mars to urgently and quickly align to their truth and authenticity. So Geburah is not one that really stands for any illusion, or particularly any illusions of grandeur. It's a sphere that requires one to be honest with themselves, a sphere that requires one to really assess their motivations, assess their morals, assess their reasonings for wanting to undertake certain ventures that may be in association with their healing and evolutionary path. It was in this sphere where I really got guidance, direct guidance, that I had to go and initiate myself through the darker aspect of the Kabbalah, the Qliphoth. So it's very much a sphere that really requires one to be open and honest with themselves and really align to what they're really supposed to be doing. So Geburah is seen as the energy of punishment, but really it's about bringing into balance judgment and mercy. Mercy is the corresponding Sephirah on the opposite side of Geburah, on the right pillar of mercy. That's Chesed. Chesed is the sphere of Jupiter, and that holds the energy of mercy. So Geburah requires one to be quite direct in nature and is often utilized as an urgent alignment to one's truth and authenticity. Archangel Camiel rules over the sphere of Geburah. Camiel is very good for teaching you self-discipline, and self-discipline is extremely important in the sphere of Geburah. Again, it's a sphere that requires one to be open and honest with themselves, to assess where they are and assess their motivations and reasonings for wanting to do things, so that they can align to their truth and authenticity. So Camiel can really teach you how to embody a state of being which is ultimately balanced, that is able to practice restraint, that is able to ultimately sit with their energies, sit with their emotions, look at their stuff, and be open and honest with themselves so that they can effectively move forward and forge their own path. The sphere of Chesed is the next that is undertaken in the Sephirothic initiation and is holding the energies of mercy. This sphere brings Geburah perfectly into balance by essentially teaching you how to emanate the necessary qualities that are resonant with love, kindness, compassion, and forgiveness, and ultimately mercy. These initiations will move you into a place where you have to learn how to emanate forgiveness, emanate unconditional love, and learn how to give. For this reason, many people can find this sphere quite triggering if they have not effectively integrated the energy of Geburah. Geburah is quite the opposite, quite aggressive, quite focused on judging oneself, looking at oneself, and understanding our motivations for wanting to do certain things. Whilst Chesed is about learning how to love oneself and love others, learning how to be kind to oneself and be kind to others, learning how to forgive oneself and forgive others. So this is a sphere that requires you to really let go of some of the other things that you may have processed within the previous spheres, requires you to really let go of certain things, certain obsessions, certain patterns of behavior that are stopping you from really embracing realistically the real reasons why we get into spirituality in the first place, and that's to learn how to love, that's to learn how to forgive, that's to learn how to heal. And that's very much what Chesed is symbolic of. Yeah, it will start very internal with the sphere, but as it's a very masculine sphere, as it's on the right pillar of mercy, you will have to learn how to effectively emanate and push out unconditional love, forgiveness, kindness, and those types of energies. Okay. The energy of Hesed can be seen as a free-flowing, forever giving energy of love, kindness, and compassion, whilst Geburah sort of applies the brakes to that energy and basically assists us with being able to utilize those qualities in a way that is sustainable for our evolution. So the initiations of Geburah and Chesed really help you to bring the balance of strength, judgment, and aggression with mercy, kindness, love, and forgiveness. So a very important initiation to undergo. The archangel that rules over this sphere is none other than Zadkiel. Zadkiel's energy, I feel, works a lot on the heart. So this particular angel is very good for essentially teaching you how to essentially move back into harmony with the vibration of your heart, teaching you how to effectively receive love so that you can give it out. And a lot of very deep emotional processing happens in this sphere. Okay, it's just a sphere that loves you unconditionally, and therefore you need to learn how to effectively emanate those qualities both for yourself and the world around you. Okay, the Da'at. The Da'at is a hidden Sephirah. Well, it's not technically a Sephirah. It's more of a gateway into the primordial womb that birthed all of creation. The Da'at is a hidden gateway that basically dwells right in the middle of Kether and Tiphareth and refers specifically to the abyss that separates the supernal triad, the higher levels of creation, from the lower seven Sephiroth. The abyss is the gateway that exists here, right in between Kether and Tiphareth. So the abyss itself has a very different type of initiation. Once you've been through the lower seven Sephiroth, you have absorbed a lot of numinous energy, and in some cases may even be attaching to the knowledge and the insight that you have gained. Going through the Da'at is a process that requires you to let go of a lot of your attachments, let go of your illusions of grandeur, and allow the illusionary aspects of your identity to fall away so that you can clear space for the energy that you will gain from within the supernal triad. Okay, so Darth is, or the Da'at, essentially represents knowledge. Okay, unlike the other spheres, as I mentioned, it's not really a Sephirah, but more of a gateway across the abyss that separates the supernal triad from the higher levels of creation. Okay, symbolizing Pluto, the Da'ath is perceived as a mystical state of unified understanding that connects the conscious and the unconscious, the physical and the spiritual. This invisible sphere symbolizes the bridge between the divine and the human, serving as the gateway to deeper spiritual awareness. So when one crosses the abyss successfully, it's referred specifically as a state of Darth. Yeah, when you acquire a state of Darth, it's seen as a significant spiritual accomplishment. Achieving the state demands deep introspection and mental discipline to harmonize the conscious and unconscious, to balance the physical and the spiritual. It's important to understand that, as with anything, it's not a one-time thing. It is an ongoing process. Once you have effectively crossed the abyss, that will not be the end of that journey. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have to look at the shadow again. If anything, it's going to deepen your connection to your shadow self. Yeah, and improve your ability to look at it, which means that you'll probably have to look at it more often. So the journey through Darth requires discipline, yeah, dedication, patience, and ultimately a willingness to transcend ordinary understanding and embrace a level of knowledge that holds the potential to transform the individual at their core or destroy the individual at their core. Okay, the path towards the Da'ath is not for the faint of heart. Yeah, it's a commitment to your spiritual growth, and is a commitment ultimately to shed the layers of your ego that hold illusion, that hold false identities, and ultimately keep you shackled. Okay. The Da'at is a big process of initiation, the transformation point of the tree. Many people have failed the crossing of the abyss. The crossing of the abyss is something which has been quite severely misunderstood as something that you have to fight. So within the abyss dwells a beast, yeah, known as the Beast of 666, which is known as Choronzon and Shugal. Choronzon rules over the Qliphothic aspect of the Da'at, and Shugal rules over the Sephirothic aspect. Okay, so when you're crossing the Sephirothic abyss, you're dealing predominantly with Shugal, and Shugal is the shadow force that represents distortion and ultimately the misuse of knowledge, creating chaos, illusion, and separation. His role in human evolution is ultimately to challenge individuals to face the dangers of false wisdom and intellectual pride, and ultimately ego-driven power. By confronting Shugal's chaotic energy, humanity is ultimately pushed towards integration, spiritual maturity, and a deeper understanding of their divine essence. It's important to understand that Shugal serves as a very important catalyst for transformation, shattering illusions and leading individuals towards a more authentic and ultimately true path of self-development that is in alignment with their soul's evolutionary path. So the way many people have approached Da'at from a occult perspective is to enter it and actually try and fight the beast. It's important to understand that all is within. The beast of 666 exists within you. You are the beast. You are the beast of 666. So what you're doing when you're entering Darth is that you're making a commitment to face some of the deepest portions of your shadow self that you may have refused ownership of. Okay, and all you really have to do is receive in the Da'at. You just have to let go and observe. Yeah, be willing to observe and let go and don't fight the process. Because if you're fighting the beast or trying to fight the beast, trying to defeat the beast, you are trying to defeat your own shadow. And that's not going to work. So traditionally, many people are said to have failed their crossing of the abyss purely because they're trying to fight their shadow and they're operating from a place of separation. Ultimately, it's always going to come back to trauma. It's ultimately going to come back to one's relationship with themselves. And when we're going into the abyss, we are symbolically going into some of the deepest portions of our shadow self, which means we're going to uncover a lot about ourselves. When we embrace the dispersion that is brought by the energy of the Da'at, then we open ourselves up to a whole new process of transformation. As you go into the abyss, you'll feel like aspects of you are dying. You'll feel like you are dissolving. Yeah, you'll feel like you're who you were before is starting to fall away significantly. But that is a necessary process to undergo so that you can effectively and safely embody the energies and the knowledge that dwells within the supernal triad. So Binah, Chokmah, and Kether. So once you have embraced the dispersing energies of the abyss and you've attained a state of Da'at, which is the process of surrendering to the chaos, letting go of your roles, and literally anything that has been encasing your true soul's essence, then you will naturally transition into a state of deep understanding. Understanding of who you really are, free from those illusions. So the purpose of the abyss is to deconstruct those illusions. So then, in a sense, you're quite naked after that. And then you enter the sphere of understanding, which is Binah. And this is where you begin to understand yourself, understand your soul, free from the illusions that you have shed in the abyss. Okay. Binah is the first sphere within the supernal triad, and the supernal triad is the three spheres that form the triangle on top of the tree of life. That's Binah, Chokmah, and Kether. So Binah is seen as the divine womb that conceives the wisdom that was thrusted into existence by Chokmah. Binah conceives that wisdom, applies the brakes, applies limitation, applies structure, applies form, and ultimately understanding. Okay. In order to give birth to the rest of the Sephiroth. So this is a sphere that really requires one to have developed a lot of spiritual maturity, which you would have by the time you've gone through the Da'at. So this level of spiritual maturity, how I would describe that is that it really requires one to be honest with themselves about their strengths and honest with themselves about their limitations, and more than anything, honest with themselves about their failings. Okay, Binah is about understanding yourself on a deeper level. And once you've reached that point, you should be at a point where you are ready and willing to be open and vulnerable with yourself and willing to look at the parts of yourself that ultimately may not be the most pleasant to look at. Yeah, and is one that really pushes you into a very deeply reflective space where, on one hand, you're gaining all of this understanding about your soul's evolutionary path and understanding what you're really here to do, free from the illusions that you've created to encase your true sense of self-expression. But on the other hand, you also have to be honest with yourself about your limitations and honest with yourself about realistically where your limitations are within your capacity. Okay, so it's really one that requires you to sort of slow down and really reflect to be able to effectively comprehend and ultimately be able to transmit the wisdom that you will gain from its masculine counterpart, which is Chokmah. Okay. The angel that rules over this sphere is Archangel Zaphkiel. This is not Zadkiel. Zadkiel rules over Chesed. Zaphkiel rules over Binah. Zaphkiel and Zadkiel are often confused, but Zaphkiel brings spiritual maturity. The way that I see and experience Zaphkiel whenever I've done an invocation is his energy is very much like, hey, like clicking in front of your face to be like, okay, it's time to snap out of this and realistically start to be honest with oneself. I feel that Zaphkiel has quite a sort of direct and realistically quite a bit like a mother. Yeah, like quite a maternal sort of like tough love energy is what comes with Archangel Zaphkiel. And having that presence whilst you're going through the sphere is extremely helpful to be able to reflect in a healthy and measured way. So once you've gone through the initiatory process of Binah, which is a deep process of self-reflection, you now need to embody unregulated wisdom. Okay, and that is Chokmah. Chokmah being the divine masculine, sat on top of the right pillar of mercy. This represents creation that is being thrusted into existence before it is understood or comprehended by Binah. Okay, Kether is birthed from the depths of the abyss, cultivating the oneness. That oneness then thrusts itself into existence and ignites the creative forces throughout the cosmos. Okay, and that's very much what the sphere of Chokmah represents. It represents that primal creative force that is not yet comprehended or understood. Okay, and you need to learn how to embody and emanate this primal creative force that is going to be responsible for the creation of your reality. So it's this sphere which really requires one to really take responsibility for themselves and really step into the role as co-creator of their reality. Yeah, it's this sphere which really requires you to embody the divine wisdom, the divine masculine of Chokmah, and really not hold back. Yeah, allow that creative force that exists within you to be pushed out into the cosmos, understanding that it will always be conceived by the divine womb. So this is a sphere of really breaking through any limitations and really dealing with the aspects of yourself, harmonizing the aspects of yourself that are not connected to their divinity. Yeah, so because Chokmah represents that pure, unregulated wisdom, that pure, unregulated, primal, creative energy that's pushed into existence, you've got to look at how that is really resonant with where you are in your life. Okay, how can you emanate more of that creative flow, emanate more of that creative energy to really start to cultivate your reality in a way that is in alignment with your truth and authenticity. Okay. Raziel is the archangel that rules over this sphere, and Archangel Raziel is the ruler of wisdom. Yeah, the keeper of wisdom, should I say. Yeah, very popular in the occult communities for uncovering the hidden aspects of the self, all things relating to magic and self-development, ultimately. So this particular spirit also rules over magic in general. So this is about learning how to embody the energy of the magician. Yeah, learning how to embody the energy of the magician, which cultivates one's reality using their true will, understanding that that creative energy does not need to be kept in a box anymore. So working with Raziel will help you to emanate the necessary qualities that will enable you to effectively push your true sense of self-expression out there into the cosmos, understanding that it will always be understood and conceived by the divine womb that is Binah. Okay, so this is very much the sphere for not holding back, taking responsibility for one's creations, and more than anything, allowing oneself to really cultivate their reality from this pure, primal creative force. Okay, here we are in the final sphere, Kether, meaning crown. Kether is the Neptunian sphere, or as some sources would say, the Plutonian sphere. Let's just call it the Neptunian Plutonian sphere that sits on top of the tree. This represents that pure oneness, yeah, the pure divine influx that expresses itself in all of the other Sephiroth. Okay, the Sephiroth are essentially the individual expressions of Kether. Okay, Kether can be seen as God. Okay, Kether can be seen as the oneness that we all came from. Okay, so we are products of Kether itself, and the divine plan is represented by the influx from Kether all the way down through the various emanations until it reaches the physical, tangible experience. Okay, Kether represents that rite of passage, yeah, into that higher level of consciousness. Yeah, within this sphere, you will begin to taste aspects of oneness to the point where it is possible to perceive from within the physical body, at least. Kether is very much symbolic of understanding one's divine will, understanding their alignment to the divine will, and really understanding one's place within the divine plan. Okay, Kether comes with big downloads of wisdom, big downloads of knowledge, big downloads of realistically just understanding and comfort that we are all one, as cliche as it sounds. Yeah, we are all one and we are all products of Kether. Okay, so going back to Kether is like you're going back home from within a physical body. Okay, so the archangel that rules over Kether is Archangel Metatron, and Archangel Metatron's exact purpose is to basically ensure that we are able to align to the divine will, okay, to the divine plan. Similar to Sandalphon, Archangel Metatron used to be a human being as well, okay, so is an amazing guide for anybody who is open and wanting to tap into his current of energy. So using Archangel Metatron, you can help to align your consciousness, your nervous system, your physical body to the divine plan, to what you're really here to do, and ultimately taste that oneness that sits on top of the tree. So once you've been through that final rite of passage that Kether represents, you will essentially shoot back down the tree, back down to the bottom, grounding all of the energies that you have gained. Okay, like a lightning bolt, you will shoot from Kether to Chokmah, Binah, through the abyss to Chesed, Geburah, Tiphareth, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malkuth. You will ground everything back to Malkuth, and once again, go on the process of learning how to further develop those new abilities, further develop those new qualities to make your life better. Okay, this is not the end of the process. Yeah, some people use the example of them getting to Kether and then they are actually in Malkuth of a much bigger tree, however you want to look at it. Yeah, we are in this multiverse, so when you are ascending the tree of life, you are not ascending your physical body. Yeah, you're going through it, learning to emanate these specific organizing principles so that you can effectively shape your reality into a conducive technology for your soul. Okay, so when you've gone through this process, you will have gained gnosis on your soul, and you may even think that you know, but you're not going to know. This is the thing. We are extremely complex beings, us humans. Yeah, we are so deep to the point where we are not able to consciously comprehend. Okay, so you will get to know yourself as you go through the tree, but you won't know all of yourself. So once you've finished the Tree of Life initiation, you need to be willing to keep going through it. Yeah. And what you'll find is that once you've been through it consciously, you will kind of move up through the tree sort of like on your own in that respect, without really consciously initiating any of the spheres or given pathways. Okay, so once you move up through the tree once and you've gone through and consciously absorbed those energies, yeah, then the journey does not end there. If anything, it only begins there. Yeah, you will also go through more of those spheres. Yeah, and you will enter periods of your life where you have to embody one over the other. So you will enter certain periods of your life that are going to be resonant with Hod. You're going to enter certain periods of your life that are going to be more resonant with, say, Chesed, where you have to be more loving and kind. Yeah, you are going to enter periods of your journey where you're going to move into Binah, where you have to really go inwards and really assess yourself and apply limitation and structure to your experience. And you'll go through periods where you enter Chokmah, where you have to ultimately emanate that uncharted primal creative force that is not regulated or comprehended yet. So naturally, you're going to enter different chapters of your life, different phases of your life that are going to require you to embody one over the other. Yeah, and this is why there are different pathways. Yeah, so if I put the diagram here again, you'll see that there are different pathways that lead, say, there's one that leads straight from Yesod straight up to Tiphareth. Yeah, and there's one that leads from Tiphareth straight up to Binah, and the same with Chokmah. So when we really look at that in depth, we can realistically just dart around the tree according to what it is that we're really needing to embody. So, for example, one could enter Yesod and start processing their subconscious, yeah, looking at the architecture of their reality, start looking at their shadow on a deeper level, and then they will need to embrace a further equilibrium between their spiritual nature and their physical, more mundane nature. So then, technically, what they've just done is that they've just shot up that pathway. They'll undergo the necessary energetic process to move them into Tiphareth, straight up to Tiphareth. And then they will go through the process of Tiphareth, embodying everything that Tiphareth represents. So there isn't really a set way. Yeah, once you're initiating through the Tree of Life and you're going in the necessary order, you're absorbing those energies, then after that it can kind of become a bit of a free-for-all. Yeah, it can even become a free-for-all on your first times through the tree. Yeah, some people end up, doing a bit of toing and froing depending on what particular method they're using. Yeah, normally when you're initiating through the tree using ritual, you're opening one sphere, pulling the energy into you, and then you'll go through the initiations in your day-to-day life. And then naturally, you'll start to move up the given pathway, and you'll just move up in that natural flow from Malkuth up through all of the spheres up to Kether, and then back again. So naturally you'll go through that process if you're opening them ritually, but depending on the method that you're using, it can be a bit of a free-for-all. What I will say is that the alternate paths of the tree, say for example, if you go from, say, Hod straight up to Geburah, you've got to undergo the archetype of the hanged man. So the 22 pathways are going to represent the 22 major arcana of the tarot, and the pathway between Hod and Geburah is the hanged man. Yeah, so you're going to have to go through the process of the hanged man. Yeah, so everything that the hanged man archetype represents, you're going to have to go through that process if you want to make that jump in the tree. So basically, you're going to have to undergo a more significant, probably a more dramatic, energetic process if you want to kind of jump the tree or jump the order of the spheres and things like that. But once you've been through the tree once, then naturally you'll find that it's a bit of a free-for-all. Yeah, so you might enter Chesed, and then you'll embody love and kindness, and then you'll go straight up to Chokmah, at which point you'll have to really emanate that divine wisdom after you have been embodying love and kindness. So it's a really individual process. Yeah, and it's the same with initiating the tree itself, yeah, or whatever method that you choose. Yeah, it's such a highly individual process. There are many people that will say you have to do it this way. There are many people that say you have to do it that way, like there are in basically any initiatory system or tradition. Yeah, but this is a very personal process. Yeah, and it is one that, only you can really decide how you want to work with the tree. At the end of the day, the tree is also your energy field. So when you are opening these spheres, you are opening these aspects of your nervous system, opening these aspects of your energy field. So you're going to naturally go through changes to your physical body, particularly if you are ritually opening the spheres. Okay. What I will say is that in my experience, and this isn't to say that someone else's experience is going to be exactly the same, but in my experience, it feels more intense, not necessarily better, but more intense to go through it the occult initiatory method, which is to ritually open the spheres and then travel through the connecting pathway to the next sphere. That's a very practical way of doing it because you're actually opening the sphere, pulling the energy into you. You've then gone through that natural efflorescence of energy and character, and then you'll move to the next sphere. So that's a very direct way to initiate through the tree, is to do it ritually. Go to the angels individually and ask them to open the spheres. Go to the angels individually and chant the name of the sphere over and over again. That is more intense, I would say, than studying it, but it's not necessarily better. Yeah, it's also dependent on your way of learning. Yeah, if you're, somebody who likes to study, then you may get more out of studying the tree versus ritually initiating into it. For me, you could say I'm more kinesthetic, so I'm much more, connected to more practical ways of working. So I'm not really too connected to the theoretical side. I feel like that comes in time, whatever method that you use. So, for me, the occult method was much better, but it really depends on you. It is worth having a mentor for it. I do offer Tree of Life mentoring, and I do have a very powerful system of initiation that can initiate you through the different spheres and connecting pathways. I will leave the link to that in the description, but you can initiate it alone. But when it comes to crossing the abyss, it can get challenging. So really just make sure that it's something that you want to undergo. Yeah, particularly when you get to the abyss. The good thing with the Tree of Life is that it is something that you can sort of dip in and out of as and when. Yeah, so you may like do a few spheres and then you may even find that you may start moving through it unconsciously. Yeah. I remember I entered the sphere of Yesod, or in the Cliffoth, so that's Gamaliel. Yeah, I entered the sphere of Gamaliel, and then I was like, I'm going to stay here for a certain period of time. And then I had a dream that I initiated into Hod, or the darker aspect of Hod, which is Samael. And then I woke up and I was in the sphere. So it's not always in your conscious control necessarily, but when you do ritually open it, you're pushing your soul into an initiatory process, and your soul is going to start to carry you in that direction. So, you will find that once you open that first sphere, you will naturally be carried through. You'll probably find that you're naturally carried through the process at your own pace anyway. Okay, but particularly when you get closer to the abyss, it's really important to look at, and really consider, is this really something that you want, and is this something that you really want to distribute the time and energy into? Because that's ultimately what's going to influence your success with the tree, is how much energy you actually have to distribute into it. If you are interacting with it every single day, interacting with the spirits of it every single day, then you're going to get more out of it, as with anything. Okay, so if you are interested in Tree of Life mentoring and gaining access to a very powerful initiatory system, I do this one-to-one, and we work together for a year to take you through the tree itself, and I give you in-depth learning and in-depth workshops on the Tree of Life itself, on the different spheres, delving into each one individually. But if not, then you can do it alone. Yeah, it just depends on what you feel more comfortable with. Okay, but I'll leave the link to my mentoring program in the description for those who want it. So I think that is just about everything that I want to talk about in today's video. Okay, this is a huge subject. Yeah, I've broken down the spheres, but these spheres are infinite. Yeah, they are so highly complex. Yeah, there's so much to them. Yeah, it really does require one to distribute a lot of energy into this path, but it is an incredibly transformative journey if you interact with it in the right way. Okay, the energies, however, can get intense, so it is advisable, if you are new to this kind of alchemical process, to have a mentor to guide you through the process. Okay, so I hope this video was of value to you. If it was, please give a like and a subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.